Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about what is the secret of Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is wisdom yoga, and it is usually interpreted as having knowledge of the true self and knowledge of the unreal self. So the distinction between the soul, or Atma in Sanskrit, and the ego, which is the non-real self. And normally Jnana Yoga, sort of the main practice of Jnana Yoga is neti, which means not this, not this. And what that means is that people will try and use a discrimination or some sort of mental process to say, I am not this, I am not this. So it may be that they're having an emotional reaction and they're like, no, this is not me, this is not the real soul, and denying that part of themselves. And certainly people are not the emotions, but the thing is that the emotions they're experiencing, right? So you see the conflict, it becomes sort of a denial of one's experience or internal process. And that is really not the secret of Jnana Yoga, of wisdom yoga. What actually happens is that when you deny part of yourself, when you deny, for instance, a feeling or an experience, saying that that's not the soul, you are in effect shutting that down, shutting the life force from flowing through that. Now, I'm not saying that you should identify with that particular feeling and say that this is me, but by suppressing it, by denying it, you're in effect doing more or less the same thing. You're suppressing it, you're pushing it down, and you're freezing it in place. So it doesn't actually resolve the issue. What it actually does is it just holds it in stasis until such time as it is released. And normally people who are very much into self-denial will at some point have some kind of catharsis, right? So this big emotional upheaval to try and get rid of all the stuff that they're holding on to, right? Because nobody wants to hold on to it. The weight of it is too much. And when we look at it from a Taoist internal alchemy perspective, what we see is that the suppression of those feelings basically compacts the life force so that it is constrained in a pattern that it cannot flow through. And that is what one might call is a suppressed emotion. But if you are actually able to get into that emotion, to open up the inner space and allow the life force to flow into it, in effect, you resolve that. And then you are not that emotion. It was just an experience that you had, a feeling that you had in the moment, rather than being an established pattern that can lead to an unhappy experience when it's repeated, right? So identification, oh, Joe, he's a nice guy, but he's really angry, right? Well, what it was, whatever feelings Joe had in the moment at any particular time that helped the anger come out, once it becomes established as a pattern, then it becomes what we may call an emotional pattern, something that's stuck. But really that is the result of a suppression and inability to actually deal with the original feeling, and then it gets frozen in place, if you will. And then the life force is affected by that pattern and cannot flow through in a natural way. So Joe is repeating that behavioral pattern, that emotional pattern over and over again, right? Because the life force can only flow through in a certain way. So if Joe is stressed and the life force flows through and he starts to have some kind of conflict, it's going to flow in the same shape, and the manifestation is his feeling of anger over and over again, right? So if you take the Jnana Yoga approach and just say, I'm not this, I'm not that, right? You're basically, Joe is basically suppressing what his feeling is, which has become an established pattern, and creating a whole bunch of turmoil within, right? So denying what's there, and but at the same time not dealing with it. And so you can see this is not a recipe for wisdom at all. What it is just a recipe for stasis, right? So if the idea then is that one is continuously denying one's feelings, you can see the divide that's going to happen, right? Your sense of self and what is inside of your body and your feelings and your past experiences are going to get into conflict, and it's going to really suck. So the real secret to Jnana Yoga is actually to acknowledge our feelings and get into them. And it's not to use psychology to go, oh, well, I'm Joe, and oh, well, I'm angry sometimes, and this is my pattern, and I need to do something about it. What it is actually to get into the feelings themselves, not to worry about them or to label them, but to experience them. And at Modern Kriya, we use particular techniques, especially fusion of the 5 elements, to do that, where we're able to bring those feelings to the center stage, if you will, and to a safe environment. And then we use a wraparound approach to help support those particular emotions or feelings to resolve. And we do that through the fusion of 5 elements practice and other practices. And we are also utilizing the life force that is flowing through us to help to reshape that emotional pattern. And then consequently, what happens is it does change. And because it is no longer a pattern, the pattern is dissolved and the life force is flowing through. And hence the knowledge, the experience of that is that it's not really that you go, oh, I was angry and now I'm no longer angry. It's just things changed. And you don't have to have the identity of one or the other. But when it is gone, when that particular emotional pattern has been reshaped by the life force, you have changed. You have taken a new energetic shape, if you will, the expression of the life force. And that is really the wisdom of the new energetic flow is the wisdom. It is the Jnana. It's the wisdom of that internal transformational process. So we don't have to worry about saying that I'm not this and I'm not that kind of thing, denying it, and then we don't have to also worry with identifying with that and trying to hold it. It's opening it up and allowing it to resolve, because ultimately when we get into the feelings and we accept them for what they are, and we give the consent for them to change and work with the life force, and then things start to spontaneously change, we change. The wisdom is encoded in the change. It is a new experience. We're having a new experience because the life force is flowing in a different way. And so if we can reflect on that new way, we can know what's happening. We intuitively feel and have the wisdom of that new experience now. And the life force is flowing through us and expressing new possibilities, and we are a part of that whole process. And it's wonderful because we get the opportunity to do some really good, interesting things and not to be stuck in our old ways, right? So that is the real secret to Jnana Yoga, and it's really that whole awareness comes out of Taoist internal alchemy. And certainly there are some folks that have had some success in that with a very more traditional Jnana Yoga approach, but they had to be open to the transformation, and likely they didn't probably understand how it happened, right? Like if you've ever heard Eckhart Tolle's story about his experience with that, something he had to let go of all that stuff, right? All the patterns that he was holding on to the past basically dissolved, right? So, and Ramana Maharshi also, similar kind of experiences. So, but it's really about what happens at the life force level, and really we need to provide a safe space for that to happen within us. We need to provide consent for the change to happen, and we need to be having a relationship connected with the life force to allow that flow to happen through us, and it happens. So that's it. That's the secret for Jnana Yoga. So if you have any questions about this, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.